Jack Smith, folks, have you been following what's going on with him? Well, he told Congress under oath that his team never read the context of the text messages that they received. Turns out he's lying. In fact, they read 44 lawmakers' texts directly, including 2 Republicans on the committee that were questioning him. Now, here's who we're talking about if you don't know. Jack Smith is the former special counsel who spent years building a case against President Trump on January 6th in the 2020 election. The investigation he ran was called Arctic Frost, and it opened back in April of 2022 as a joint FBI and DOJ probe. And Smith, he ended up taking it over of November of that year. Now, to build that case, Smith's office sent out nearly 200 subpoenas, covering more than 400 named Republicans. And when it came to sitting members of Congress, his office told everyone that the phone data collected was narrowly tailored in 4 days. Okay, January 4th through the 7th, the window around the Capitol riot. That's all he was supposed to get. I hate calling it a riot, but now AT&T, they actually pushed back and questioned the legality for the request, and Smith's office ended up backing off. Verizon complied. They handed over the records for 12 lawmakers, their numbers, and they limited the data to that 4-day window. And that was the story that the public got. Narrow, limited, toll records only. And when lawmakers found out their own records were part of this, they asked Jack directly, under oath, in front of the committee. Now, if you know what he told him, he gave a pretty clean answer. He had toll records only. Timestamps, who called who, nothing more. No content. That's what a toll record is. Okay? Now, that's a specific sworn answer, and it matched the story that his office had already put out. Narrow window, metadata, only 12 lawmakers. But you look at what Senator Grassley actually found when he pulled the real Arctic Frost records, you'd be surprised. It wasn't 12 lawmakers. It wasn't a 4-day window. It wasn't toll records. His team, Arctic Frost, directly accessed the actual text messages, the content, and everything for 44 current and former members of Congress. And they bypassed the filter team to do it. That's the process specifically built to screen out privileged material before investigators ever see it. Smith skipped it. Now, one clarification, because I want to be accurate here. These messages didn't come from wiretapping anybody's phone. They came out of a broader production of White House communication. They pulled from the National Archives covering October of 2020 through January 12th of 2021. Lawmakers' texts with Trump's White House, all those, everything, okay, got swept all up inside that production. Anybody in the White House, the administration, all of it. And the Justice Department's own letter to Grassley says that Smith's investigative team apparently bypassed the filter team and directly accessed these text messages. And that's the actual violation. Not that the messages existed somewhere. It's that his team read them without the screening process that's supposed to stand between an investigation and anything privileged. And Grassley and other senators, they laid it out in this conference. They called it a runaway train with no brakes. Smith's investigators apparently ignored their own routine investigations. And they reviewed work-related messages from him and dozens of Republican and Democrat colleagues who were outside the scope of the investigation. He said Smith's team ran roughshod over the Constitution. Senator Ron Johnson, who's a stellar dude, he went even further. I won't quote them verbatim, but look, at this point, I think nobody should be shocked that Jack Smith had an agenda, had a mission, and he was willing to use and abuse anything to get the outcome that he wanted. And again, 4 of the 44 names are ones that we all recognize. Mike Lee, Tom Cotton, Chuck Grassley, Susan Collins. These are the people asking Smith the questions, and they were on the list of. I mean, Jack Smith sat there and knew their private text messages while they were asking him questions. This isn't the first time this exact pattern has already had a real consequence. I mean, if you look at what happened to one of Jack Smith's own people. Back in November, Jim Jordan's committee referred one of his former senior prosecutors, the dude named Thomas Windom, to the Justice Department. Windom sat for 2 closed-door depositions, and he refused to answer almost every question, even after the DOJ authorized him twice to talk. And Jordan referred him under the federal obstruction statute. I think it's 18 U.S. Code Section 1505. That carries up to 5 years in prison. That's not a committee press release that we're talking about here. That's a federal criminal indictment. Okay? Already filed. Already sitting at the Justice Department months before any of this new information about the 44 lawmakers ever came out. Now, Jim Jordan is saying Smith himself wasn't square with the committee when he testified, and he's calling it a total separation of powers issue. And Grassley supports that. They believe Jack Smith has some answering to do. And it sounds like he's going to be brought before the Senate Judiciary Committee. So, I mean, this isn't the Senate, staying quiet. I mean, walk straight into yesterday's confirmation hearing for Todd Blanche at the AG. And Senator Kennedy, he ended up asking Todd Blanche point blank 4 separate times whether Jack Smith had spied on him personally. And the answer was yeah. Josh Hawley asked Blanche directly if he'd consider investigating Smith for perjury, and Todd Blanche said, take testimony in front of the body very seriously, and yes, he would. That's the man, hopefully, is going to be running the DOJ. So, here's my read on all this. Okay? Most of the time, a story like this makes noise for a news cycle and then it goes away. I think this one's different because the referral against Windom already happened months ago under a real statute with real prison time attached to it. And now Jack Smith is in the sights of the man in line to run the DOJ. And he said exactly what Jack Smith probably didn't want to hear. But here's the whole picture. For years, we had Jack Smith and his team accusing the president of abusing power, of interference with the election, playing outside of the rules. But now the record shows that Jack Smith's team did exactly the thing that they spent years accusing everybody else of. They told the public and Congress it was 12 lawmakers, 4 days, and metadata only. But it turns out they were lying. It's 44. Full content. And they circumvented the safeguards that are put in place by law. And when Congress asked him, he lied under oath. Again, that's the guy who chased the president for 4 years. He's getting caught doing worse to the people who are supposed to be checking him. And one of his own people is already facing real prison time. This is rare, okay? Very rare. You have to ask yourself, I mean, as much as it sounds terrible, and these members of Congress are supposed to have these protections, would they go this hard if Jack Smith had the personal text message of an innocent civilian? It's just because it's them. Okay? Regardless, a prosecutor who spends years chasing a president for abusing power just gets caught on a scale 4 times bigger than what his original investigation was. It's pretty tough. So I'm going to keep an eye on this because Jack Smith may be the only one out of all this that actually faces some consequences. And no matter where you go, in every part of the public political discourse, you hear people saying, nothing's going to happen. I'm so tired of it. Nothing's going to happen. And I have to agree with that sentiment. It always feels daunting, like nothing will happen. But I think this may be a rare opportunity for something actually to happen. That won't satisfy my appetite for justice on all these other things, but it will at least give me some hope. Hey, live stream tonight, 9 o'clock. I think we're starting at 8:45 right here. Trump's address to the nation. Hope to see you there. It's going to be my first live stream on the channel, and I'm excited about it. See you soon.